Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Russell Rhoads, Head of Research over at EQDerivatives. Dr. Rhoads, it's great to see you as always. Happy New Year and welcome back to Trade Talks.
Happy New Year to you as well, Jill. Thanks for the throwing the doctor in there,
Yes,
which is relatively
I have been waiting for a number of years to finally throw that in there, and we are super excited for you over at Nasdaq. Let's talk about the Nasdaq 100 and vol Q. And it seems as if the Nasdaq 100 sort of like petered into December, into the new year. Now we're in January. So tell us a little bit about seasonality and how the index tends to act in January.
Sure. Well, one funny thing is one of those things we've always been drilled into our mind is that Santa Claus rally thing. Well, the Nasdaq 100 generally does not participate in that. December's not one of the better months for the Nasdaq 100, but January is. It's the third best month on average going back to 1989 is always January. We're up on average a little over 2.25%. And I think that's, maybe just some enthusiasm about the overall economy going into the new year that works its way into the tech-heavy index every year.
So now with vol Q, if the Nasdaq 100 doesn't typically participate with that Santa Claus rally, can we expect vol Q to remain elevated, or do you think we could get somewhat of a sell-off in vol Q in January?
Well, here's the really, we could spend an hour talking about all the different idiosyncrasies with respect to January and the Nasdaq 100. Vol Q is another one. Just for example, the last 5 years, the Nasdaq 100 has been up in January, and 3 of those 5 years, Vol Q closed higher than where it started the month. And that relates directly to that earnings seasonality that we see that shows up in Vol Q. And typically it shows up the month after the end of the quarter, but it's a little bit unusual with respect to January because some of the bigger companies don't report until early February. And right now on the Nasdaq site, you guys have Amazon and the two Googles, Alphabet, GOOG, both reporting in early February, whereas the other big components, Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, and Facebook, they're all going to report the last week of January. But on average, you'll tend to see vol Q trend higher in the month of January, regardless of what the Nasdaq 100 is doing. So a lot of folks like to read into that, like maybe we should be a little bit more concerned about the underlying index when the volatility index is trending in the same direction. That's something I would not give as much credence to in January as opposed to the other 11 months of the year.
Which is so interesting because typically when you see them move either up and down together, you start to get a little bit worried. Okay, are we a little bit complacent here, or is there something on the horizon that we should be watching for? And of course, 2022, there are a number of events we'll be looking at. Of course, we have tapering, we have interest rate hikes potentially, we have midterm elections coming up, we have earnings season coming up in the next couple of weeks. So there really are a number of fundamental factors that could, we could see both the index and vol Q moving up in tandem with each other.
Probably see them moving up in tandem with each other periodically throughout the year. You mentioned the rate hike scenario. We're probably going to get 3 of those this year, starting maybe as early as March. And there's this belief that there's more sensitivity to higher interest rates with tech stocks versus some other sectors. So don't be the least bit surprised if vol Q is at an elevated level for most of 2022, regardless of what the underlying index is doing.
All right, Russell, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.